vas a hacerme sufrir con decirme que no me querías. Yo más tarde vi tus procederes y pensaba el favor que me hacías. Yo te amaba, tú eras mi delirio.
Well, this is the town that I was born in. Grew up right on 241 South Earlham. Went to the two schools, one that by the time I went to school, it was integrated. My brother Jim, who is here, is second oldest in line. He was actually one of the kids that went to the segregated school that our father was told he could not go to the white school. So this is great to see the audience, because this is something that my father envisioned, is diversity, different cultures kind of meeting in one. Where the school's at right now used to be in Orange Grove. I don't know if you guys know that, but this was all Orange Groves at one time. There's a lot of history here. And I will start now with the history of my father and my legacy, and what the people at that time, what they had to do and what they endured, actually. So my father, Lorenzo Ramirez, was born in Mexico. His family entered the United States in 1923, before the immigration laws. He was enrolled into the first grade at the age of 13. He would climb to the 8th grade in 3 years. At 16, he left schooling behind for a job at the local citrus ranch to help the family. According to Mom, he really wanted to become a lawyer. I guess because of his religious upbringing, his calling in life was just to help people. When Dad went to the Almadena school, it was integrated. When the new school building was opened, he was allowed to move into the new building. Without his knowledge, the old building had now become an all-Mexican school. Attitude towards the Mexican people started at a downward spiral. Because of the 1929 Great Depression and the Midwest Dust Bowl, farmers migrated to the Southwest. Unfortunately, so did their Jim Crow laws of prejudice and hatred, which caused actions of discrimination. White-only theaters sprang up. No dogs, Negroes, and Mexicans served here. Signs dotted the restaurant and barbershop windows. City pools limited Mexicans to a one-day use. In our town, it was called Mexican Monday. At closing, they would drain, clean, and refill the pool. In the Mexican schools, not speaking Spanish was encouraged with the use of a 3-foot paddle with holes to instill pain. So in 1938, Dad joined the Catholic Holy Cross Parish Mutual Benefit Society to help the needy. At some point, he joined the Logia Progresista, Sociedad Progresista Mexicana, translated Progressive Mexican Society. They were a fraternal order like the Masons. They would supply burial insurance and keep their eyes and ears open for abuses towards the people living in the United States. By 1940, Orange County had 18 Mexican colonias. In 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, up to 750,000 Latinos would join. In 1942, Mexico and the United States would enter into the workers' contract to protect their citizens. It was called the Bracero Program. Dad was in charge of this program at Murphy Ranch. In 1943, our father accompanied Mexico's Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ezequiel Padilla, Attorney General, to San Francisco for discrimination conferences which exposed the abuse on the Mexican people. In 1944, the family moved back to his hometown of Almadena, which is now in the city of Orange. When he went to enroll his 3 sons, Ignacio, Jim, and Joe, into the same school building he went to, Mr. Hammerstedt, who was a teacher, principal, and the superintendent, would not let that happen. Mr. Hammerstein's excuse, there wasn't enough seating in the white school, but there was enough seating in the Mexican school. In frustration, Dad tells Mr. Hammerstein, the day will come when Japanese, Filipinos, and Negroes will come together. Mr. Hammerstein's reply, I don't think those days will come again. Well, in Santa Ana, they changed their district lines, meandered the lines around the Mexican communities in order to include them into the all-Mexican school. If you were white and you lived in the Mexican district, you were allowed to transfer. But if you were a Mexican living in the white school district, you were not allowed to transfer. Mr. Palomino actually lived in Santa Ana, but because Garden Grove Mexican school was closer, he was told he had to send his child over to another school district. In Westminster, they were actually going to integrate by moving the Hoover School or by building a new school. But on day 3 of the trial, they admitted that even if we do that, we have intentions of keeping the kids separated by segregation. And so now, on day 3, they would be entered properly into the lawsuit. And Al Medina had a unique situation. The schools were only 100 to 120 yards apart. The district solution: the beginning school bell, morning recess, lunches, afternoon recess, and school release times were staggered as not to allow commingling. The children never saw each other. During the trial, the superintendent's excuse for making these 100% Mexican schools was a language barrier added by Spanish Jews at home. 2 was their hygiene problems, not washing hands, always coming to school dirty. But they forget the kids went to school after they were working out in the fields and the orchards. Number 3, they didn't know our culture, and they can't even recite our nursery rhymes, but then admitted in court that neither could the other kids that came from Belgium and the other countries. The other thing was number 4, they have a combative attitude. But in court, it was discovered that they felt that combativeness came because they were segregated, having one set of kids looking over at the other school, which was a better looking school. So on March 2nd, 1945, Mexico's consulate lawyer, David Marcus, filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of the 5 families. It would be named Mendez et al. Versus Westminster School District of Orange County et al. Et al. is a Latin word which means others just as important. The lawyer Marcus would challenge a separate but equal doctrine followed by the United States in Plessy versus Ferguson. The Orange County school districts used the doctrine to make Mexican-only schools in order to separate them from the white students. On February 18, 1946, the federal court judge, Paul McCormick, found the school districts guilty of discrimination by segregation, thus violating the 14th Amendment, which guaranteed equal protection to all citizens under the federal law. The school district would appeal to the California State Court of Appeals and would lose in 1947. Had the schools decided to carry on the appeal, the next court of law was going to be the Supreme Court of the United States. So this actually might have gone to the Supreme Court. But Thurgood Marshall and Reuben Carter of the NAACP heard about it and wrote an amicus brief favoring the Mendez side of the. The California governor was a lawyer and knew the Jim Crow laws were unjust. His name, Earl Warren. He would become the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court. The NAACP would use the same argument to segregate the rest of the nation in Brown et al. Versus Board of Education et al. 7 years later. So I hope this legacy in turn helps you guys further your education.
Pensabas hacerme sufrir con decirme que no me querías. Yo más tarde vi tus procederes y pensaba el favor que me hacías.